to ask questions. Isabel's not even going to sit down. She's a lecturer at the University of Santiago de Compostela. She's jointly director of the Innovation Lab in Galicia and president of the Association of Education and Economy. Saying the same thing in Basque.
Bat ikerketa proiektu zuzendu ditu. Bere ikerketa ildo nagusiak giza eta gizarte kapitala eta kultura kapitala, berrikuntza, ekintzailetza eta portaeraren ekonomia dira. NEIRA nos va a adentrar en...
Isabel's going to talk about the first of the third challenges, the digital and technological transition.
Creo que me voy a liar con la mascarilla y el micrófono. Bueno, buenas tardes a todos.
Good afternoon, everybody. I was going to say good afternoon, Euskera, but I've forgotten. And all I know how to say is Euskera Gasco, which is thank you. So I'm going to say thank you, therefore, to all those people who've made it possible for me to be here this afternoon. And it's really nice because after talking after Sara Larica, I don't know if you know, but those of us that work in the field of economics, she's the benchmark in economics and the labour market. Every time I listen to her, it's a tremendous pleasure. It's really difficult to say anything sensible, and that's at her level. So I've got a challenge there. Not only that, but I've been lucky enough to share and listen to Anton Costas, and people actually listen to me now, it would seem. I'm finding that amazing. Anyway, it's a pleasure to be here at this event, and having been invited from somebody from Santiago to a community which is a benchmark, which is the Basque Autonomous Region. So after all of this, I need to say something meaningful so as not to waste your time. When we talk about the challenge of digitization, we've listened all morning this word digital, new skills, green economy, transition, where we were, where we are, and I'm pretty sure all of you read in the press day in, day out, the jobs of the future, we don't know what they are, new qualifications, and even there are people who are pretty daring who predict, and Professor de la Rica probably could say to us, well, how can we predict something that doesn't exist? Well, you could look back at historical data, but you're still imagining. You can't really predict using data whether there's going to be 50 professions in the future, 30 or 50,000. So I'm not going to talk about that because I'm not an expert in that. I work in quantitative methodology. And what I do know is about figures. I've spent my whole life using quantitative methods, and I've recently discovered that we're very similar to something which the engineers discovered a while back, which is data science. Data science was something that we did because we work with lots of data. We called them econometric models, and we had a department called quantitative methods and statistics. So with all of that, I've been lucky enough to work in the last year with lecturers who know a lot about the labour market. I don't know a lot about the labour market personally, but when I get together with a team, and I like working in a team, and because I like entrepreneurship, and I know a lot about teams, I learn a lot about entrepreneurs, I go a lot to entrepreneur fora. I found two professors on the labour market, and have spent 20 years working in the world of employment to work on a project which I've been called for to by a consultancy, because I use the word econometry. It seems that we that work in econometrics know how to make models, and consultants don't know that, because there's a problem in this question, which has been mentioned by the European Commissioner. There's a lack of communication between the world of university and the world of business and the world of government. And you might be thinking, well, what are you doing up here? Well, I'm trying to prevent that from carrying on. So in the university and in public companies, there's a lot of talent. There are also other people that don't have so much talent and we don't have the appropriate mechanisms to correct this. But there are some really good people at university, in science, and also in the public service employment. And I'm saying all of this is because what I'm going to tell you about today, which is about public employment offices. I've been working for the last year and a half on an idea, and it's just an idea for the moment, which is how we can adapt public employment offices to the digital scenario, which is just around the corner. And that's what I was going to talk to you about today. And I'd like to thank the Ministry of Employment for the Basque government for having chosen me to tell you about this. This morning, the regional minister said that she wanted to change Lambide so that it served both people and business. And that's actually what an employment service should be doing, surely. And perhaps now you're thinking, oh, maybe that's what the digital world is for. And yes, it is. I'd say yes, it is. Artificial intelligence, I always say, actually doesn't exist. Artificial intelligence is a computer which we program with models, which are going to say to us what we tell them. And what's behind all this? Maths. It's easy peasy, really, to understand that. Small models that even our economics students don't need to study neither engineering nor computer science. They know what a program is and they get all the results. They go into the program. But there's no computer. There's no computers are more cleverer than humans, nor do they know anymore. The thing is, with artificial intelligence, can be used by computers to help humans make decisions. We can type things into computers that would probably be in the minds of some of the people that are sitting out here that work in the employment service, but not of the 50, 100 or 1,000 workers that work there. So technology allows us to systematize knowledge, to organize knowledge, but not knowledge that's in the computer, because the computer is dim, doesn't know anything. We need to put into the computer what we want to put in.
And that's the secret, and that's what I will be speaking about today, which is the digitization of public employment services. When a year and a half they asked me to speak about this, I studied labor economy, and I'm interested as an economist in employment. But I had never worked with this kind of statistic models, nor with labor market models. As a good researcher, I've researched this, and I've dedicated some time to studying it. Maybe the difference amongst researchers, and that's why I say that it's important to bring together research with business world and consulting, and then I will explain why these big consulting companies have to work with us, because we deal with this, and then this is systemized by the businesses in a faster way. What does the employment service has to do? To come here and explain what it is would be very ambitious for me, but I want to remind you what has to be done. We should, first of all, adequate supply and demand. Later we will see that as we work in a system where every day, I know there's lots of people from the public employment services, so let's reflect on what we do every day and what we would like to do, because we do what we have to do. Someone comes in who is unemployed, we try and look for something in the system for them. What we would like to do is to have a way of bringing together the offer and the demand, and this is easier because we have big data, and we have programs that can help us. It's not that there will be a matching in the program. This matching has to be done by the person, but it can help us, and this is what can be done through digitization method. We need information, and I will highlight this later on. We need more and better information. We don't have good information. We have to provide support to those demanding employment, and something that the minister has said, training throughout life. Because a great part of the Spanish budget is going to be allocated to this, to reskilling and continuous training. But what kind of training? Because of course, we need to provide this training. Which kind of training do we want to provide? This is what the office is doing. In a changing world, what happens to the services, I think, is what happens in universities, and that is that we go slow. We have infrastructures and ways of working that give us a specific pace. We need to have a public bid. We have to do many things to get things changed. And even though some of them would like to do things in a faster manner, they cannot achieve it or do so. But how can we do this? And this is the challenge. The challenge is mainly e-governance, the challenges of digital governance. This is a challenge for all public administrations. What I would like is that in Spain, in the next 3 years, we would really have a way of changing public administration with the European funds. It is a complex challenge that won't take 2 years, it will take 10 years, and we only have 2. So it is very difficult to, in 2 years, do everything that has to be done to change e-governance or digital governance of those services. And why do we have to do it? Well, because LinkedIn exists, and if LinkedIn and InfoJobs and other private employment services that do it exist, and if Google and other services exist, why can't we do it too? And there are many questions why. First, because we didn't have the money, but now we have it. So for those of us working in entrepreneurship, we say, what do you need to create a company? First of all, the idea. You have the idea to digitize the service. Secondly, I need investors. Well, we have next generation, so it's the moment to do so. And thirdly, and that's even more difficult, and I will go into this later, we need a team. And we will need very many people trained to do this in a fast manner and adequately. We cannot just spend funds in any way to have a bad employment service. We need to make the most of this money to do it adequately, and to do so we need to cooperate amongst different public employment services. And if this is already being done, it's being done in Andalusia, for example, or we're working on this in Galicia, maybe we should coordinate and that way be faster and not repeat tasks. Data. If you go to the Basque Employment Service, and I'm going to criticize yours, I'm going to talk about the SEPE, that is from somewhere else. So if you go to the Public Employment Service and you look for a job, you see that if you go into the system and you compare it to LinkedIn, you see that there are big differences. So the first step, and this is what we're working on, and that's why I say that consultants are experts on e-governance, because they're working on this in other departments, like in the tax department or in the health department. So that's what we want to achieve. We want to systematize information, which isn't easy, because let me say that this is not easy to do. And I cannot explain what the situation is because I have a confidentiality agreement, but I can tell you about the structure of what we are developing and what we want to achieve. What do we need to do? First of all, we're working on professions and knowledge. Historically, and universities work in this way, degree in economy, degree in engineering, degree in whatever. Does this mean that we need to change these degrees? No. What we need to do is to take into account the skills. What do you need to know? What are the skills needed by an economy graduate or a biology graduate that they don't have? What does someone who is graduated in economy 20 years ago like myself and that didn't know about data science. Well, maybe they have to be taught data science because they've already studied economy. So we have to go from professors and knowledge to people and skills. In these people and in these skills, we carry out tasks, and these tasks are the ones that have to be defined. And we cannot define job positions like truck driver, because they also have other skills beyond driving. So if you are a forklift driver, we need to take into account the skills that you need, and you can do that with the algorithm. The algorithm is the easiest thing to achieve of all of this. What's really difficult is to define the skills, to define what I need to write in the system, and to have an easy form for the person that is looking for a job. The algorithm with a smart engineers, you will get it. It's easy to do. How do we balance all of this? As you know, we have soft skills, hard skills, and what we're designing, what we're doing is taking the tasks, knowing what are the skills that this person has, what is demanded by the job position that they could carry out. Imagine, maybe I'm a wonderful piano player and I love languages. What does that mean? That I speak several languages and I can focus on my job. Maybe with a bit of training, I could work at the Silken Hotel as a hotel director, because I just have to be trained to do that. I already have skills that come from other training. For example, when I studied art history. So we don't have to match as we're doing now, saying we need an economist. Yes, maybe we need that part, but we also need someone who manages the department of, and to do this, we not only need those that have a degree in business, maybe someone with a degree in political sciences or in history can also do this very well, or someone who has done vocational education and training. So we have to design a catalog. I don't know how you've designed it. I've studied the way in which it was done in Galicia, and sometimes we just do it on the spot. What we need to do is to plan. What are the training actions that have to be put in place? So we need to know what's demanded in the job position and in real time. That's very important. Big data and the way in which we work with big data allows us to program in real time, which is something new compared to what we did before. And with statistics and the way in which we work traditionally, we had to wait till data is published. Now we can absorb them immediately, program the system, and for the system to give them to us immediately, which is an advantage. How did we do this? And I'm not going to go into this in detail. Before, it was called a statistic profile that was carried out by econometry data and other information that Professor De La Rica is an expert on. What's the challenge? Before, we looked at the background information. When we analyze this background data, this is basic. Without this, we can go on to the next step. But now we have the next step. And the next step, I can take the data that I have now in the system and be able to progress with them. And I repeat this. We need data. And the whole problem is that we need to do this in 2 years to change the way in which we introduce the data is matched, and how we use the system. So personally, my concern is how quickly we have to put in place this process. I hope we're able to achieve it, and we will see how. I've already explained. On the other one hand, we have the people that are looking for a job, and then we have those that are looking for someone to cover a job position. We have an algorithm, and at the end of the day, we have a system that helps us in decision making. We have a dashboard, something that we talk about so much. If you work in accountability, you know before this was done by hand, but now you can see everything in a simpler way. Why? Because it's difficult to look into the figures. Either you're an accountant or a inspector, or it's very difficult. But now if you see the information in this new format, everyone can understand, and that's what we want to achieve for everyone in using the public employment services, where they need a job, or a company that is looking for workers, for them to see all this in a clearer way. How do we achieve this? If you've worked with consultants, and I'm sure you've also have user cases for the offer and the demand, and for training actions. With this training for each profile, we adjust a level that can adequate them to this. For example, you have a 20% of skills to be able to be working in the reception of a hotel, and to do so you would have to train in these 3 courses. If you do this, then the employability will be the following, and this is a probability. So we're using mathematics to inform people of the probability of success of a training course. Using data in real time, we can assess the training, and this was already done in the past. How do we do this? The aim is to identify the needs in real time, adapt ourselves to those needs, and have good information of the capacities needed in the labor market, because there's many people that have worked for 30 or 40 years and already know that when they work in the employment department. If you go to a hotel and you go in, the receptionist knows how to work, but everyone needs to know it. That is the challenge. So we assess and this redesign, and I brought this because there were some economists and my colleagues from data science call this matching learning, which is something that is explained in an economy class. So we're using a terminology and models that already existed and were already being used, but we weren't using before. What would we like to achieve? This is an example from the US, and we have to learn from those that are doing this adequately. What do they do? This is a service of how information is provided. They ask, find your career depending on the industry. Tell us what you like to do. You write what you like to do, and they tell you what is the probability of you being happy when doing a specific job, which is also something important. This would be the next part. We are not inventing anything new here. We ask about your skills, your attitude, your know-how. In our services, we don't ask about this. We ask other relevant information, like would you like to commit? Do you have to stay somewhere because of your family? But we really don't know about the people. Is it difficult? Well, it's not that difficult if they come to our offices. We can gamify this and be able to adapt it. We don't want people just filling in a form, because that would be impossible. Now it's easy to do through technology that allows us to do this in a faster manner. Once we have the information of those that are looking for a job, and in fact they classify exactly the tasks that are carried out by all careers in all the codes. We would have to adapt this to our own market, because they are from the US, but these tasks are already explained, and I'm not going to go against those that are hosting us. So If we go to how this is being done, this is something new at the CEPE. It's not a criticism. This is something new from last year, I believe, and they also have a classification algorithm. The training needs that were in a PDF, because we have the information. In the public services, we interview people to know what are the needs in the labor market. There are projects that are tracking InfoJobs to know what are the skills in the labor market. But then we have all this information in a PDF and we never read it because we don't have the time to do so. And those we say, let me go to page 25, because I believe on page 25 they talked about what you are saying right now. It is complex, so things have improved, but once again we have this 441 hotel receptionist, and you look at this and this is a whole different world. I'm a statistic, and in the Council for Statistics I always say we have to go from statistics to what people really need. People don't know what 441.2 is. They know they want to work in a hotel and the different job positions there are, and they're big and small hotels, and sometimes you need to serve breakfast because there you work in different areas in the hotel, and sometimes they're looking for managers. So we have to go from this way of understanding the world to the other way of understanding the world, which is faster and in which you adapt in a faster way. And if we bring this together with this being the job position that is being offered, how am I going to know all of this? Good relationship so that everyone feels comfortable, but this has a name, as a skill. So you don't have to write a whole thing about it. So if I write this skill and I put it in the other side and I match them, the system automatically says, oh, you like speaking to others, and then there's this job position where you could fit in. Because maybe you've been unemployed for many years and you haven't thought of how with your age, because maybe 50 is a good age because you know how to be polite, how to work with others, and you don't need to have technology skills. It's everything is in a database and it's easy to learn. So all this is an example of what we do for different big companies like the Telefonica. This is a Power BI, which is an Excel tool, and we're not using it in our employment services. We're not visualizing data. Well, neither in your departments nor in many others. These are the tools that are being used by big companies like Telefonica and others. But we're also a big company, and I say so because I work in a public company. A government is a big company, a public administration with resources, potential, and with the possibility of having funds. So what to do with all of this? We need to use advanced analytics at the service of individuals. And I would like to end with this message. To do this, we have to work together. The administration, research organizations, and SMEs. There are many small startups and companies that collaborating can provide a better service. If not, we won't be able to spend all those European funds with big calls of millions and millions of euros, and it's very difficult to compete for small companies. So through consortiums and other ways, we're able to get this fund. So thanks for your attention, and I'm not saying anything negative of the public employment services nor the people that work in them. If the change is done correctly, we will have an InfoJobs or LinkedIn that will need many more workers. We will need many more workers to provide a better service. So at an employment level, things will improve. Not only the employment of those that are outside the service, but also those inside the employment services.
Gracias.